right, guys, we are back with another episode of Talking Preps. Chris, this is week
playoff round 2.
12, 13, one of those.
Well, if we're counting it,
round 2.
It's week 12, like round 2 of the playoffs. We got a lot to talk about. I'm really curious to see what you have to say about the crowds we saw this week, but we'll get to that on the other side. Chris, what caught your eye?
Wow, do you really have time for that? I think I could do a whole show on what caught my eye. Some good, some bad. First thing is Chambers. Man, you really can't sleep on these Charlotte teams, even when they go into the playoffs with mediocre records. Some teams, they kind of where they thought we were. Providence comes to mind, AK, Leesville Road, Rolesville, even with the, the record being what it was, they kind of flexed some of that Joe Evans muscle. Union County had some teams flex some muscles, had some teams around the state who kind of came into the playoffs with 500 or even less than 500 records and really stepped up and showed us that they're good teams. St. Stephen's, South Garner, South Granville, Dixon come to mind, and a couple teams that came in that maybe mediocre records, teams like Havelock, who just absolutely dominated, who might be better than we think they are, ready to go on to the big stage. So I don't know, a lot of stuff.
Gary, were you surprised by Chambers to go up there and get a win like that, down 31-13 at that?
Yes, I definitely was surprised because they've been searching for offensive consistency almost the whole second half of the season for whatever reason. So yeah, that was a surprise. But like Chris said, the schedule that they play during the year kind of prepares them for what they might see in the playoffs. When you play a top-notch schedule against some of the best teams in the state on a weekly basis, then when the playoffs come, there's really not anything that's going to surprise you. What surprised me more than anything were the number of blowouts. That's
let's talk about that, Gary. There were 8 one-point games, and there were 54 games decided by 25 or more points. And I'm going to come to Dale on this. The attendance was poor. What do you think about all these blowout games versus a handful of close games, Gary?
Well, there goes the unintended consequence we talked about way back in August. When you have that many classifications, and you've turned high school football playoffs into a participation activity, then this is what you're going to get.
What'd you call it?
Too many team participation. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a playoff bid. That's basically what it's come down to.
Wow.
So I think they need to cut the number of teams that make the playoffs at least by a fourth, if not a half. But I'd say a fourth. It's just too many teams in the playoffs that, are not competitive enough to make the first round interesting.
Chris, you're nodding your head. Go ahead.
I agree. I would love to cut them in half, go back to a 4-week playoff like we had in the old days. Every game would be big. Every game would matter. And I understand, there's some teams out there and some coaches, and I'm going to put this on the coaches. Trust me, they want the 8 classes. They want to say, hey, I got it in the playoffs every year. But I also know that some of them are by the end of the year, especially when you're a 1-9 team or an 0-10 team. We had several of them in the 1A that make the playoffs. They're tired. I bet those guys are ready to go. Those kids don't want to practice one more week. They're ready to go play basketball. I think it would be better for all to just let the teams that deserve to be in and eliminate half these that don't.
Well, one of the unintended consequences we saw, Dale, was poor attendance throughout the playoffs all over the state. And there was a coach, a fan at Shelby that made a post on social media, and you can see the stands behind him. He said this may be our only playoff game. They're going to lose money, and they had a running clock against a 2-win team. And I think a lot of fans may have stayed home because they figured these games were going to be blowouts. But Dale, I don't want to step on your toes. You were at Olympic. You saw a game that looked like this at halftime. So what did you think about it?
I don't think that's why fans didn't turn out. I really don't. Home teams are still going to, those that support their schools are still going to show out. They'll just leave early, but they're going to show up.
That picture doesn't look like they showed up.
Well, exactly, but I don't think that has anything to do with anyone thinking. People at Olympic didn't know what was coming into play. The fans had no idea what was coming in, and the fact that the visitors brought that many people, I think, kind of disputes that, because you should always have more home than you do visitor, you would think. And I think the fact that they brought that many people down from Guilford County, the same number of people, tells me it's not got anything to do with a group of fans thinking there was going to be a blowout, because if that's the case, then why would those people drive down from Guilford County to support?
I'll make a bet with you, Dale. I bet the attendance this week is phenomenal.
I don't think that's got anything to do with it. I really think it's more of a factor of, especially with Olympic. Again, what was the crowd like at Providence and Ardrey? I bet it was a good crowd.
It wasn't what it was the week prior.
But Olympic has not had a good a good turnout of fans, from what I understand, all season. I think at Olympic there's another maybe unintended consequence of what's going on with fan support. I told my buddy, I said, when we went up to AC Reynolds, knowing that you have some hope that you're going to win, but you're carrying a 3-win team up to play, one of the top teams in the state, the Rockets. And, I knew that it was a heck of a long shot to even be able to be in the game. That's my
point, Dale. All these fans knew it was a heck of a long shot.
But you didn't let me finish. You interrupted.
Go ahead.
We carried more people to AC Reynolds than I saw in that Olympic crowd.
Gotcha.
The same base of people.
Point taken.
Yeah. So I think there's another kind of issue going on there. I just really believe that with some programs, it's just a matter of a lack of interest.
So, Gary,
I think when the playoffs come out and you get towards Friday and people say, well, who are they playing? And they hear anything less than 6 wins, they figure out, hey, I'll catch them next week.
I'm going to see Fantastic Four, the dollar movie.
I'll catch them next week.
I'll say this, and for example, I went to A.L. Brown in Kannapolis, and that was a very mediocre crowd at best. I would say maybe 1,500 people, maybe. And that's against South Iredale, two really good fan supportive programs that typically would pack the fans. My mother, for example, she goes to all the games. She ain't got a kid there. She just goes to support her hometown team. And she reluctantly went because she thought $10 was steep for a playoff ticket. And she said to people she knew were saying they would not go for the price of ticket. And I think that has something to do really.
Yeah.
Good point. No, that's a very good point. You start getting up. The tickets are too expensive now. That
starts what, $9 for a ticket plus the fee.
10.
Plus the fee.
Yeah, but that A.L. Brown game, if you look at it from, is it going to be a good game? I think everybody knew it was going to be a good game. It'd be a worthy game of competition.
I just think, Dale, there was just so many games, to Gary's point, where people looked at it and just kind of knew going in, this is probably not. And there were 54 blowout games. People just kind of knew.
Yeah,
I know you disagree with that, but I think that was.
I disagree because a couple of things, and we'll move on. One, you look across the nation at all the states, especially the football states. They have the same kinds of issues with blowout games, etc., in the first round, because they have long playoffs too. I don't think we didn't have this issue last year. We didn't have this issue the last few seasons. And I think the way that things are balanced out now.
He's not doing 6-7, y'all. He's doing unintended consequences.
Here we go. Hey, Friday night lights or Saturday morning groceries? Which one's going to be? with these prices.
No,
we're in a bad economy too. That's another thing. We're in a bad economy.
That's a very real thing. All right, we're going to jump from here. West Cabarrus guys went down to Winston-Salem and pulled off a huge upset, got the first win in school history. And you shaking your head? Not an upset?
That's not an upset.
Okay. Well, it was a big win for West Cabarrus. Matt Jenkins, who used to be at Huff, is doing some magic at West Cabarrus. They set a school record wins, and Cam caught up with Coach after the game.
All right, Coach. First program playoff win that this team has had. Just what are the emotions like right now with you and the team?
No, it's exciting, right? It's great for the kids, great for the players, great for the program, great for the school and the community as a whole.
Yeah, talk about the grit to come back. I mean, obviously, you gave up the one big play, you gave up the late score to them, but just the resilience that your guys kept showing.
Yeah, it was mistakes. You know, we haven't pinned to the sideline. We get out of leverage. Cyril's a great player, man. Yeah. He's a good ball player. You know, we had him stop down there with the turnover, then we fumble it there. But the offense does a great job, comes down and scores for us, and then the defense does a really good job at the end to finish it off.
Last question for you, Coach. Next week, you got a lot of familiarity with those guys up in Greensboro. Just what's different about coaching here and the mentality you've got to prepare for this team in Grimsley?
No different.
No.
We're going to prepare for Grimsley the same way we prepared for R.J. Reynolds. We're going to go out. We're going to have 4 great days of practice. We're going to work our tail off as a staff this weekend. I know our kids are going to start watching film as soon as we get it, and we're excited about the opportunity to go.
Cam, you've seen a whole lot of West Cabarrus because your brother plays there, but what do you think about this win and what Coach Jenkins has been able to do with this team?
Yeah, I mean, look, first playoff win in program history. No other West Cabarrus coach can say they've done that. But, I mean, to Guru's point earlier, yeah, I mean, a 17 beating a 16 isn't an upset. If you looked at the way those two teams have played towards the end of the year, I mean, R.J. Reynolds they've been getting steamrolled by a lot of the teams in their conference, a couple shutout losses. And, I mean, this wasn't an upset. R.J. Reynolds hit him for a couple big plays, one that Jenkins was mentioning. It was a real short pass and just a couple missed tackles. And, I mean, the kid takes it like 70, 80 yards. But, I mean, really competitive game. West Cabarrus was really gritty to be able to stay in that game and not kind of get too down when they scored late. But, I mean, I think Jenkins, if he sticks around, can really get that program to a level he has already gotten to a level they've never been, but keep elevating that program to where they may end up being one of the better ones in Cabarrus County.
Chris, you agree?
I do. I agree. And you know, they were a 5-win team. You know, the ball bounces crazy ways could have just as easily been a 7-win team, although it could have been a 4-win team. You know, the ball bounces certain ways, but I agree. They played really, really good down the stretch, you know, as they kind of started to grow with Coach Jenkins. He obviously has been around the block. He knows what good football looks like, and he's implementing that at West Cabarrus. You know, if they win next week, that'll be the monumental upset of the century here in North Carolina. But I think that's a team that's going to grow, and they're going to continue to get better, and I like what I see.
Yeah, he's going up to Grimsley next week, and he's played at Grimsley a couple times as a coach. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I worked with Matt for 2 years up at Hopewell.
Yeah.
And one thing about Matt and his program building is he doesn't take shortcuts. Mm-hmm. You know, there are things that you could do early in your regime to maybe win 1 or 2 more games, but he doesn't approach it that way. He looks for long term, and then that you see it manifest itself at the end of the season. He's a brilliant defensive mind. Mm-hmm. He is a brilliant defensive mind. And so his defense will keep him in the game. It's just, can they score enough points so the defense doesn't wear down? That's going to probably be their problem, is how do they score? Because they'll be sound fundamentally on defense. I mean, he's a brilliant defensive-minded coach.
Yeah. Now, I can't remember if Sam had been knocked out of the playoffs and was just not working at the time, but a couple of years ago, we sent Griner out to playoff games every week, and he went to Richmond County, and they all surrounded him, and they ultimately fed him barbecue, but I think they scared him to death before they gave it to him. So I had this great idea to send Sam out to a football game Friday, and I said, why don't you go to Providence? And it never occurred to me that West Charlotte was playing Providence the next week until after he came back. So he's got a little bit of a story from how he got this video.
Great win. The Cardiac Cats, once again, 7-game winning streak. How does it feel?
It's good, man. Just the kids believe. and you can see it. You can see it in the plays they make. You can see it that when they stay cool in times when it's tough. Right, there's a lot of chaos going on. We're not playing very well, and they stayed steady and did their job. So.
Yeah, that's what I think about you guys. I think that you're such a resilient team, and you're catching fire at the right time. No one picked you guys early in the year when you had your 3 losses to win the conference. You win the conference, you get your first victory in the playoffs, and then you get a second-round matchup with West Charlotte. But some of the key factors tonight, how well was number 7, Keelan, playing on offense and defense? He was a big impact player for you.
Yeah, man. Adding him to the defensive line. I mean, with the other 3, they're so fast. They're so athletic. They're just hard to block.
Yeah.
And when you don't have time to throw the ball, it's tough to get it downfield. No doubt.
Talk about special teams. It's such a world of difference when I'm watching Andrew and Providence. It's such a huge advantage for Providence in the kicking game.
Yeah.
Punting, snapping, kicking off, field goals, extra points, booming through the uprights. It's a huge advantage, it looks like.
Yeah, we got a good one, man. We had Eddie Shaplitsky, who was the Ray Guy Award winner, a year ago in college, and this kid's just like him. He's a hell of a player. I mean, hell, he threw a corner route last week to put us in touchdown range, whatever. But yeah, he's got a leg on him. And then also the kids work hard at it. We're in the right spots. There's effort down the field on the punts. They care about it.
Speak a little bit about your quarterback just leading this team. He's technically, as a starter, he's 7-1.
That's
right
right.
now.
That's right.
Pretty special.
Yeah, he's such a student of the game. He knows where to go with the ball 90% of the time. Now, we do got to get him to throw it away sometimes because he likes to try to make plays, but he's just such a savvy, intelligent kid. He gets people in the right spots. When you have a guy that can control the kids that we need to get it to and get them in the right spot, then he can get it to them. Good things happen.
Well,
looking forward to the matchup, second round. Come see us.
All right, Griner. So what happened to you in Providence as you were getting this wonderful video?
Well, first of all, who's the rookie camera guy on here? Like, who can't, like, can we get the orientation lock off, Griner? Come on.
Yeah, you got all those 100,000 Instagram followers, so you just used to filming that way. But on for streaming, you need a little vertical, you need a horizontal.
I got to get that better right there. So, watch the game from Audrey Kell, and I'm very respectful, understanding my parameters. I'm not like a regular media guy that's going to be on the box or something. I stay lingering around the corner near the pylons. And so what I'll do is I'll go from one pylon to the other pylon if it flips field, but I'll go way behind. I won't walk through the school. I'll walk the perimeter of the fence and stuff like that because I'm just trying to, do the job. I'm not trying to get an advantage for myself or anything like that. And late in the game, I heard the Providence principal is retiring at the end of the year and just wanted to say congratulations to her. And I walked by and said, congratulations, and, made a little joke back and forth. And then next thing you know, I'm on the other pylon about 2 or 3 minutes later, and their AD comes tapping on my shoulder, and you got to get out of here. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. I was like, well, he's like, you got to go to the other side.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I was like, I'll go to the other side, no problem. And he's like, I was like, he was asking me, you can't be down. And I was like, well, I'm working media tonight. And he's like, you don't have a media pass. I said, yes, sir. Yes, I do. And, I was trying to show him.
You have a media pass. True story.
Yeah, I do. I do have a media pass. And, I gotta make some money, somehow, some way, because coaching doesn't pay, obviously. So I had to go work my job. So I go to the other corner, and next thing you know, someone's coming to rattle the Bears cage again, I guess. And he says, well, I changed my mind, basically. And you need to go to the stands now. And I was like, okay, I'll go to the stands. So I went to the stands, and then I came back on the field after the game was over and got my interview with the winning coach. And he's a great friend of mine. And Ward's got no problem with it whatsoever. But, I get it. They don't want me near, think I'm picking up signals or something like that. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just out there staying very, very far away. I'm not like Dale. Dale be in the headsets. He got to be in the headset.
But the coaches love Dale, though. They
no doubt. They don't like me. They don't like me around.
I don't know about Myers Park, I still don't know where that headset thing came from.
Yeah. Sam, what you talked about the kicker in the video. I know you like kickers because you like things you don't have. What do you think about their special team?
I'll tell you right now. I mean, if this was some type of ability where we can make trades, I'd make a few trades.
A couple weeks ago, you tried to trade for the Providence Day kicker. You just open.
I'm telling you what,
I'm open.
Anything now, I like my kicker now. He's gotten a lot better, but this kid right here, it sounds different when his foot hits the ball. It's cold out there, and it sounds like he's hitting a helium ball. That thing a boom.
I have a suggestion. That kid's an underclassman. You and Wes are good friends. Send your kid to work out with that kid all summer. That might help.
Yeah, we got. You could just tell that kid came out the womb like just got. He was doing 1 steps in the net, and I'm like, golly, he kicks it farther than 1 step than I've seen in a long time.
You know, Sam, and I know I'm dating myself, but the original Batman with the Joker,
Adam West.
played by Jack Nicholson, when he played the Joker, and Batman would have all these devices, and he would say, "Where does he get all those wonderful toys?" Sam sounded like he was saying, "How do y'all do that special teams thing? I just don't get it.
It's foreign to me."
Hey, that's not the original Batman.
The original Batman is Adam West. He's talking about Michael Keaton in 89.
Well, I'm talking about the movie.
That was Michael Keaton. Yeah, Michael Keaton, 89. All right, so moving on, we're going to go over to Palisades. Cole Huff threw three touchdown passes against his old team, South Mecklenburg, in the win. We caught up with him after the game.
I understand you're pretty familiar with the South Meck crowd.
Yes, sir.
Did the game mean more to you?
Oh, for sure. You know, I just came out here. I just wanted to do my thing. You know, just trying to prove myself. You know, I'm just keep getting better every day. And yeah, for sure.
They made you work for it. What was it like when they make the comeback at you and got within 5 and you had to close it out on offense?
Definitely show that they're just resilient. You know, but you know, we got guys that we can get the job done. You know, the Lord has blessed me with a great team to be a part of, and you know, I couldn't ask for more.
The sideline pass kind of, in essence, closed the game out. Yep. What did you see there?
The sideline pass.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have great guys that can just, you know, they can do everything. You know, I don't have to, you know, press too much to help us be successful. I have a lot of amazing players around me, and you know, they make great plays like that. And yeah.
Next week you got #1 seed. What is that opportunity for you guys?
Yes, sir. Of course. You know, we want to go against the best. You know, we're trying to prove ourselves this whole season, and you know, that's what we want at the end of the day. Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, Southwest Dale, what do you think about Palisades and their rise up?
Their rise up. I think they're where I would have expected them to be.
Okay.
I mean, if you look back at the Shuford years, you've got pretty much the same base, although the base has expanded tremendously here with population growth. There's a lot of athletes down here. I think really the thing to note about Palisades right now is that they didn't lose to South Meck in the fourth.
Yeah, you have a script for Palisades. They seem to try to follow it every week. Tell us what that script is.
Unfortunately, every loss is the same script. Every loss is the exact same script. Have a dominating performance, be leading into the fourth quarter, maybe getting near the half point of the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And then things just kind of, it's more than just the wheels coming off the cart. It's like the whole cart just falls apart.
And maybe they learned something this time, because they were up 35-25 and they threw 3 straight incomplete passes deep in their territory, punted. Mm-hmm. Callaway Williams runs it back 45 yards for a touchdown. Shows you how deep they were. And then they decided we're going to just run the football. They went to 4-minute offense and just ran the football and ran the clock out. Maybe they learned.
So you hope that you learn something from all of that happening.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons you play good teams, especially when it's non-conference, because you want to be pressed, and then you want to see how you respond to being pressed. And when that adversity comes up, how do you respond? And those previous games, Langston, I was starting to wonder. I told a buddy of mine on the sidelines Friday night, I said, hey, Palisades is up 21-7. And we both had sons that played at Olympics. So that's why we were there together. And he's like, oh, looks like they might take this one away. And my response to him was, honestly, I said, they still have to play the fourth quarter.
Well,
and he
maybe
said, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see.
We'll see. They definitely need to get off to a good start at Huff on Friday. That's going to be key because Huff can kind of get rolling on you. All right, the last one before we move on. Over at Butler, our good friend Brian Hales, I'm going to bring in just a second. They made their 26th straight playoff game, won it, and held off a really tough Hopewell team rather. And after the game, we heard from Coach Hales, his star running back, and Coach Need from Hopewell.
Well, one thing I can say, man, we came out here at the second half and finished, you know what I'm saying, as a team. Defense showed up, offense showed out. So all I can say is we came out as a team, got it together, and won the football game.
What do you hope you guys can take from this moving forward? Because you got at Mooresville next week, and that's going to be a tough out.
Yeah, just stack days, work. We got to come ready Monday, go to work, watch film, and get ourselves together.
Well, we knew coming in, obviously it's a playoff game, and everybody's season's on the line, so nobody's going to roll over and play dead out here. So, they did a heck of a job getting prepared for us. It made us work really hard tonight, but then just super proud of our kids that, forced things to happen out there, made big plays when they needed to, were able to put it away, and just, really proud of our kids for fighting for 4 quarters here tonight.
It keeps your playoff streak going. You've had a team in the playoffs now 26 consecutive seasons.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always feels good. That's what we told the kids today, that, we've never ended a season in the last regular season game. It's always been do or die for us at the end. And, we just, and that was the thing that, we talked about. We just want to have one more week, just one more week, and just work hard, and let's get one more week together, because I still got a lot of stuff to teach them. So we got another week, and we'll see what we get out of next week.
Good deal.
Yeah, it did. I think football is always a game of momentum. So I think we played well. I think we did what we want to do, but there's breaks that sometimes don't go your way. I think we took a little bit to bounce back. We did eventually bounce back, but it took us a minute to do that, and I think they took advantage of that. We're playing Butler. They're a tradition-rich program, a great coach program with Coach Hales. You can't give them so many opportunities. We probably gave them a couple too many tonight.
Well, I am I'm sorry, Dale. I am impressed with the job that Coach Need has done at Hopewell, but I wanted to break some news, Brian. You're the interim coach at Butler right now. Are we going to take that interim? Are we going to take that interim tag off for 2026? Let's break a little news.
Well, I think let's do this, and let's just say we're moving on to Mooresville.
Tell us about the big win Friday.
No, you like that, Gary? Man, no, Friday night was cool. Friday night was cool because, and I'll get to the game in a minute, but, one of the great things about being a Butler as long as I have is so many of the relationships that have been built over the years. So, number one, to compete against a guy in Coach Snead that not only coached at Butler with me, but he also coached under Mike Newsom. He also coached under Barry Shuford.
Yeah.
So, the 3 guys that, we'll say we want, with the history of Butler, but, for him to have a coach under, with all of us, and then not with just Coach Snead, but their offensive line coach is a guy named Cam Taylor, who played offensive line for us at Butler. So, putting on the Huff tape, the Hopewell tape and seeing their offense, seeing so much of our stuff and so much of the stuff that we've done over the years. But then, so we've got Cam over on the other sideline, but one of his classmates, at Butler is coaching with us now. So to see those guys get together after the game and kind of interact, man, it's what makes this thing so special and so much fun for me, on a personal level. But, talking about the game and the kids that, and we need it, because our kids, like I said in the video, even we still have a lot to teach them. They still have a lot to learn. It was kind of our MO early in the year where we'd find ourselves down at halftime. And I think, the first 3 games we won this year, we were behind at the half and had to make second half comebacks, to take the lead and ultimately win. And, we found ourselves in a position again Friday night where we had to make big plays in the second half. And, we had Dylan Greer force a fumble that Kenyon Stewart scooped up and ran back, 60 some odd yards for a touchdown.
Right.
Saw, just our kids on offense make some great plays, some great effort plays. And to see that, they're continuing to learn and to see how good they could still become, all the way down to where, they had to try an onside kick late. And DJ Starling returned that 80-some yards for a touchdown for us. And, a lot of these guys that are making these plays are underclassmen too. So that's, that whole we want another week with them, because that's always been our experience that whenever our season ended, it was man, if we could just have one more week with these guys. And that was kind of the point of we've never ended at the end of the regular season. Like, we've never been in a position where we knew definitely our season was going to end that night. A couple of those teams we played in the playoffs, I kind of may have saw it coming a little bit, but but the reality part of it is that, like, it's always been win or go home for us at the end of the season. And, for these kids to be under that kind of pressure, that's what we love about high school football, is because it gets these guys to learn these lessons on the high school level, where it's high school football. It's not life or death. So there's so many lessons we want our kids to be able to learn before they get out into the world. And, these are some of those lessons that you have to put your best foot forward, not just on Friday night, but like Damarian said in his video, every day during the week. We just got to continue to stack great days.
Brian, I got a question for you. How did you approach last Monday, coming off a disappointing loss to your rival, Independence? Did you just say, forget about it, we're not even going to look at the tape? Or did you still use the tape to teach before you moved on to Hopewell? How did you approach that game? And then will it be different from your approach that you have this week since you won?
Right. It's a great question, Gary. And with us playing last Thursday, I kind of may have taken Friday off after the day after the game to kind of get some rest myself. So, we gave the kids off. We also gave them, Saturday off. Typically we have them come in on Saturday mornings. We get a stretch, kind of get them loosened up, and we watch the film from the night before. But, with the week being as it was last week with playing on Thursday, we really just kind of moved on. I think we may have looked at the Independence game a little bit, just showing a few corrections here and there, things we should have done better, could have done better. But no, for the most part, it was, we moved on to the, to the Hopewell game and started getting prepared for that because, again, as much as you value the lessons that, happened during the regular season, it's just different now. And you had to prepare a little bit differently. And, things that you may be setting up, things like, myself, I know I may run a play, at some point in September, knowing that a team we play in October is going to see that film. So we're trying to set something up, for when we play those guys. Whereas with this, it's a 1 week season. So it's all about, we got to get these kids prepared. This is what you're going to see. This is what our likely adjustments are going to be to that. So that when you get to Friday night, it's like, hey, I know we didn't practice it, but at least we got to talk about it. So, that's the long answer to your short, the short version being we moved ahead for the most part.
Yeah, well, it's a great win for you, Coach. Definitely want to get your thoughts on the next game and a very hot Mooresville team. We're going to do that when Chris takes over in just a second. But we did talk about some players of the week in our other show. If you guys didn't see it, go to charlotteobserver.com right now. I'll try to put a link on the screen so you can see it. But we talked about all the top performances last week. Gary noted there were a ton of running backs, and running is coming back in vogue as it's getting colder. But, Chris, one guy that caught my attention was this J.J. Gillette. Love that name. 429 yards, 7 tutties. And you tell me don't look at Dixon and think this is not a strong performance.
No, you really look at the teams they played. They played some dogs, and he's a dog, and he's physical, and he's good.
Yeah, well, he was on the show with us, and definitely check out his interview, J.J. Gillette. I have a sneaking suspicion, guys. I'm going to give you all a little preview. When we name our Mr. Football semifinalists in a little bit, you might see his name. We'll be right back after this. Every week on Thursday and Saturday morning, get the latest in high school news from around the region in the Charlotte Observer's free newsletter, Talking Preps, the newsletter. Make sure you sign up now.
All right, guys, welcome back. Talking Preps, going into the second round. I almost called it the first round of the 2025 high school football playoffs. Guys, we had an eventful week, a boring week in some respects, and a couple good games too. So let's see what week 2 or round 2 has in store. We're going to start down in the 1A ranks. Let's take a quick glance back at Friday night's games. There you see the West bracket. Andrews over CPLA, 42-34. Rosman over Bonnie Cone. Winston-Salem Prep over Chatham Central. Hobgood Charter out there in the east, they beat Weldon North Edgecombe. A little bit of a shocker right there. I'll get to that one in a second, Jim. But they knock off Washington County. That's one I didn't necessarily see coming. Sally B. Howard all over Columbia. Before I go and look at next week's games, Jim, that Washington County, I don't know that I saw that one happening. What did you think about that one?
Before that game, I think I had Washington County favored by like 17 or 18 points. And when I saw the score 26-12, first thing I did was I wanted to get it validated to make sure that's the right score, and it was. Great win for North Edgecombe. That was a tremendous win. It's good to see that program winning in the playoffs. It's going to be hard. I think they got Bear Grass Charter next week. It might be a little bit hard sledding going forward, but still, that's a great win that might help you out next year.
Yeah. No kidding. Other than that game, nothing really jumped out on the paper for me in the scores from the first round. All these teams were looking to the opportunity to play the higher seeded teams with the bye last week. Taking a look at this week's games, Andrews going up the road to Robbinsville. That is a Smoky Mountain Conference game. Or a conference matchup, two teams in the same league. I think we all would have probably agreed Robbinsville not only is favored in that game, but still I think is going to advance all the way to the finals. East Columbus going up to Danbury, almost in Virginia, North Stokes High School. That's an interesting one still. We talked about that last week with a team from nearly Wilmington going all the way up towards Virginia state line. That is a crazy one in the West. Rosamond going to South Davidson. Jim, I don't know if this is correct, but I think that's probably the first playoff game ever being hosted in Denton. Winston-Salem Prep, Thomas Jefferson. Then looking at the East, Hopgood Charter going to Pinetown Northside. North Edgecombe going to Bear Grass Charter. Sally B. Howard going to Kip Pride. Southeast Halifax going to Wilson Prep. Jim, I'll start with you. We'll just go from the West and move down to the East. General thoughts and what do you feel about this week's games?
To me, Robbinsville in the West, it's I think no matter what, they're the by far large favorite. I'm looking at the games right there. The Rosamond South Davidson might be interesting. I think South Davidson handles them pretty well though. Nothing really much kind of stands out in the West. In the East, I think you just play these games to get to the next week. Next week's when the 1A East really heats up.
I totally agree. Dale, 30,000-foot view from any of these 1A games. Any thoughts or feelings on them?
Can't disagree. First round was not competitive for a reason in 1A, and it's almost that way this way. I still see Robinsonville. I want to see just how well South Davidson can ultimately do before they encounter Robbinsville.
Yeah, totally agree.
I don't disagree with Jim. Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's take it on to the 2A. Let's take a look back to Friday night's games in the West. Albemarle knocking off Cherokee 21-15. Cherville 55-12 over South Stokes. Hayesville over Highland Tech, Mitchell over Langtree Charter, Mountain Island over Elkin, North Rowan over Avery. Most of those games, I think, came out as expected. Looking over to the East, Camden County over West Columbus. That was a little bit of a Donnybrook right there. That one was a good game. Northampton over Lejeune, Rosewood over American Leadership, Southside over Pamlico, Union over Northwest Halifax. I think that one shocked me, Jim. Any of those kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, two of them. I saw Northwest Halifax play earlier on the season. They have a pretty good passing game. I was surprised the Union beat them. The other one I was going to say, that Albemarle Cherokee, actually I picked Cherokee to win that game, and It was good to see the Bulldogs win a game.
All right. Looking here to second round games, Albemarle, that's one of the tradition-rich schools, especially in small school football, going on to take on the Murphy Bulldogs. That should be a good game for nostalgia purposes. I don't know that it'd be a good game on the ball field, but, still, us old-timers like to see those kind of guys going. Cherville at Starmount, Christ King at South Stanley, Community School of Davidson up at Swain County, Hayesville at East Wilkes, Mitchell at Bishop McGinnis, Mountain Island Charter at Allegheny, North Rowan at Corvian. Let's just look at the West first. What stands out to you, Dale?
What stands out to me? Not a whole lot, actually. I kind of agree with you, Bulldog, and I think the Bulldogs in the mountains. That's one of the teams that's I think can get in the way of people. Get in the way of a few of the teams here. So otherwise, I think favorites win here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the top half of the bracket, and Jim, I'll ask you, I think the bottom half of the bracket, we kind of all assume that Corbian's going to make their way to the semifinals. I think that top half of the bracket, I mean, Murphy's good, Starmount's good, and I think Community School of Davidson. I think those three are good. That north side or that top side of the bracket to me looks very competitive.
Well, you know, the one game that I wanted to a little bit discuss, that Community School of Davidson and Swain, I think that's going to be a really good game. And that's, to me, that was the very first game, the two ways that might help us determine who makes the semifinals and who also makes the final round there. I think Community School of Davidson is a really good team. Let's see how they do in Bryson City when it's a little bit colder, though.
I agree, and I want to agree with you. I have seen this Community School of Davidson team in the flesh. I watched them earlier this year. As good a football team as I've seen. I think they're in for a run, but you're right. It's one thing to be good on paper. It's another thing to go up on top of that mountain and do big things. Looking at the East, top side of the bracket, East Carteret at Gates County, Lakewood at Hobden, Northampton County at Manio, Perquimans at Holmes. Then at the bottom side, you got Rosewood at Warren, South Side at North Duplin, Union at East Bladen, West Columbus at Tarboro. I'm still going to say the East is the Tarboro Invitational. Am I wrong, Jim?
You're not wrong. I'm trying to think if any team could compete with Tarboro. I just don't see it.
I hope I'm wrong. Nobody.
Be honest with you, with Tarboro, if Tarboro was in the 3A East, I think Tarboro would win the 3A East. I think they're that good.
I think they would be competitive in the 5A.
Yep.
Any thoughts, Dale?
Everybody plays to play Tarboro.
Agreed. All right, well, you mentioned the 3A, Jim. Let's take a look at the 3A. Looking at last week's game start, some of them were competitive. East Surrey, they knocked off Polk County. Hendersonville all over East Davidson. Shelby all over McMichael. Thomasville in a close one over Chase. I kind of expected that one. I thought that'd be a good game. Union Academy knocked off Owen. I had watched Owen play. I thought Owen had a chance in that one. West Davidson over Madison. Madison, this is one of the best years they've had in a while. Play since Coach Gosnell went 13-2. I think it was about 2013. Really good looking Madison team. I think they're on the up and up. That's for another show. West Lincoln over North Wilkes. Wheatmore over West Wilkes. Looking at the East, Aiden Grifton over South Lenore. Farmville Central over Trask. Hertford over Northwood. Kinston over Northmore. Princeton over Bennington. South Columbus over West Bladen. Wake Prep. That one shocked me a little bit, the way they just dismantled Bartlett Yancey. I know you've seen Bartlett Yancey, Jim. And then a good one, Wallace Rose Hill over Green Central. Let's start with the East, Jim. Any thoughts on last week's games?
That Bartlett Yancey team, it's kind of hot and cold. I saw them play 2 games this year. The last game I saw them was against Carver, and they were down 16-0, and they pretty much had their way with Carver after that. Played they played 3 times better than I've ever seen them play. Nothing really kind of stands out to me from last week, but this week in the West, I see 3 really good games there. That East Surrey team that's 5-6, I'm going to tell you right now, North Stanley's going to have their hands full with East Surrey. I think that's going to be a really tight one. West Davidson, Providence Grove, I think that's going to be a really close one. And, I saw it here just a little bit ago, and I can't find it right now. Darn it! I'm sorry. I know what it is. Shelby and East Rutherford.
No,
that right there is going to be the game of the week right there. I think those 2 teams are probably the top 4 or top 5 in the 3A. So
no, I agree with you. Just to kind of call them out, Union Academy at Eastern Randolph, I think they're running into a brick wall. I hate to not give a team a chance, but Eastern Randolph, really good team. East Surrey, North Stanley, that will be a good one. Hendersonville at Lincolnton, that's going to be another one of those game of the week type games. That's a big one. Obviously, we mentioned Shelby at East Rutherford, Thomasville at Mount Airy. That's another one of those old school, like win it for the old guy kind of game. West Davidson at PG, West Lincoln at Mountain Heritage, Wheatmore, Walkertown. Dale, I'm going to give you some what's your thoughts on this 3A West?
Well, there's obviously a couple of really good ball games. You called them out. I kind of like that Hendersonville Lincolnton game. I'd like to see a Bulldog team pull an upset off, just because I'm a big Thomasville fan, but I don't see that happening. And I was a little surprised that Wheatmore made it into the second round, to be honest with you. I
I'm
thought
not
that
gonna lie,
win.
that one kind of I scratched my head at that one. West Wilkes had been playing some really good ball, and Wheatmore, they just kind of came on at the right time of the year. So I definitely concur. Looking at the games in the East, Aiden Grifton at Whiteville, Farmville Central at Lewisburg, Hartford at Pender, Kinston at Midway. Jim, I'll get you in a second, but that game there, I could see about 80 points being scored. Princeton at Pasquotank, South Columbus at Northeastern, Wake Prep at Martin County, Wallace at James Keenan. By the way, that Wallace-James Keenan game 2 weeks ago is a 28-21 game. That's an enormous rivalry game. Going to be played in front of a lot of fans. I don't think they care about ticket prices. There'll be a lot of people there. Jim, your thoughts on the East?
That Kinston Midway game, it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be somewhat of contrasting styles, if I know correctly. I think Kinston is more vertical and Midway's more pound and ground. Barrett Sloan's done a great job there at Midway. I think that's really probably the best game to go to for pure competitiveness. That Wake Prep Martin County might be an interesting one also, but the last one, that Walsh Rose Hill and James Keenan, those are rivals, and those are really intense rivals, and anything can happen in a rivalry game.
I agree. And to me, I still don't think that there's a team that necessarily stands out to me as a state championship contender out of the East. I still think it's wide open to a degree, so it's going to be fun to watch over the next couple of weeks. Let's take a look at the 4A now here, talking preps. My South Carolina Raiders, they took it on the chin. It was a 14-14 game earlier. Next thing I know, I looked at my scores, and it was like 56-14, 71-14. Wow. Good. Congrats to Bandies. Also, Fred T. Ford, they knocked off Lake Norman Charter. I kind of thought that one would happen. I think I was the only guy on Talking Preps that picked them, by the way. North Surrey over Salisbury, no surprise. RS Central over Wilkes Central. That RS Central team, they're really good. Tuscola over East Burke. That one was a lot lower scoring than I thought. Tuscola lost their quarterback midway through the season. I saw them in a game up there. And by the way, Chris Cogdell, East Burke coach, former Tuscola player. I thought that the emotions of that game, he would lead a tough charge for East Burke, which he did. Bottom half of the bracket, West Iredale all over Ash. West Stanley, that's a game. Coach Ralph Jackson, the Colts knocking off Lexington. That was a big one. West Oaks over Forbush. So they played a few weeks ago. Forbush won. I think West Oaks is a team just to kind of keep your eyes on. They're finally starting to get healthy. So just keep an eye on those guys. Looking at the East, Carver over Moorhead, Clinton over Ledford, Eastern Wayne over Anson. Anson led in that game till really late, and I thought Anson had a chance to win. We talked about North Johnston with Players of the Week. They knocked off Little Washington, North Pitt over Cummings, Red Springs over Jordan Matthews. Roanoke Rapids, I thought that was a little bit of an upset, 14-12 over Nash Central, Southwest Edgecombe over Southwest Onslow. Jim, let's just talk about the East first. Any thoughts on those games Friday night that we just saw?
You know, that Roanoke Rapids, Nash Central, both those teams are pretty much down this year. I think I actually had Nash Central winning that only by like 3 or 4 points.
Same, yeah.
And the Eastern Wayne, Anson County, that one really did surprise me. But, you know, the only other one that kind of surprised me, I thought Carver would win a little bit or have a better margin than over Moorhead. It was 16-0 at half. And Moorhead's pretty much shut down Carver, just like what happened in Week 11 to Carver against Bartley Yancey.
Looking at the round 2 games, Carver at Central Davidson. Central Davidson, they're a buzzsaw right now. I like what I see. Coach John McIntosh, he's done a great job right there. Clinton at T.W. Andrews. Eastern Wayne at Southwestern Randolph. North Johnson at East Duplin. North Pitt at Randleman. Red Springs at Reedsville. Roanoke Rapids at West Craven, Southwest Edgecombe at Bunn. Those are some good games, Jim West.
Well, I agree with you. And I saw Central Davidson, some of their film on their offense, and that was a really neat offense. The quarterback is under center, and it's like their fullback is right next to him. And then you had 2 wings. I think they used the 2 times. Oh, my gosh. And I'll tell you what, that's just pure power. But, you know, I like Central Davidson. I think Central Davidson is one of those teams that will go pretty far. I think they'll probably get to at least to the semifinals.
I see them as a semifinal or at least a quarterfinal, probably against East Duplin.
I could see that. I think that East Duplin game could be a really good one. But, you know, I think most of these games, though, are going to be kind of a more shutout. Although that Southwest Edgecombe Bunn, I might go with Southwest Edgecombe in that game.
Agreed. By a lot.
So –
Yeah, I still think that power in this bracket lies with West Craven and Reedsville, which would be a 4th round game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that's going to be a slobber knocker.
Yeah, Dale. Hey, let me throw the bracket up one more time. I'm sorry. Just kind of to go over the 4A West this week. Dale, any thoughts on what you see with the 4A West?
We're going to bring it back up.
There we go.
So I think a 6-5 Bandies is a dangerous team to be a 6-5 team. Stuart Kramer's had a good year, but that's going to be I think a tough ball game for them. Another potentially dangerous, low win team is Burns. That
Agreed.
too could be a dangerous team. Overall, I think there's a lot of tough games here, quite honestly. I think as far as the bracket plays out, how this bracket will play out, still kind of like Brevard, but I would watch out for the Bandies and the Maidens of the world.
Yeah, Brevard's 10-0. They've escaped a couple games this year, which could be to their benefit. Having had played some good games coming into the playoffs. So we'll see what Luke Coleman and his team can do. I do like Brevard. But I don't know. There's a couple other teams on the top side of the bracket. High Brighton is really good looking. Hard to say. I think that we're going to be in for some good games. Even Maiden sitting there at 6-4. I wouldn't count out the Blue Devils. But anyway, guys, that is your breakdown of the 1A through the 4A here on Talking Prep. So we're going to take a quick break and come back, and we'll probably bring some of the other crew on because we're going to start talking about the big dogs, the 5A through the 8A. So we'll be right back. Hey, this is Chris Hughes, host of the Observer's Talking Preps. Proud to say that our show is growing and growing and growing, and we've got a brand new schedule. Mondays at 8 p.m., get our players of the week. No more waiting. Then on Tuesday, 8 p.m., catch me and Sam and all the guys of the #1 show in high school football in North Carolina, Talking Preps. Wednesdays, 8:30, Dale Ross and Jim West will host Talking Preps OT Live, talking about statewide issues, trends, and interacting with viewers. And don't miss our post-game show Fridays at 11 p.m. where we wrap up all of the night's actions. At Talking Preps, we've got you covered all week. All right, guys, here we are back to Talking Preps. Let's talk 5A football. Quick look at last week. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the big ones. Forest Hills, they escaped one. Carson, they took it on the chin to Montgomery Central. Like that Montgomery Central team. Oak Grove, they're still looking good. West Henderson, West Rowan. Looking at the East, though, had some good games. I think some power really lies here in the East. Dixon outlasting Rockingham County. Jim, I think that was an overtime game. Havelock, I think they finally found their passing gear, 49-7 over Richlands. Seaforth knocking off South Brunswick, South Granville kind of coming alive. Looking at there's some good looking games. Southeast Alamance, I was at their practice a couple days ago. Really like what I see there. But let's look at this week's games. We'll start in the East, Jim. Dixon at Northeast Guilford, Eastern Alamance at Hunt, Havelock at Currituck, Person at Northside, Seaforth at Croatan, South Granville at Rocky Mount, Southeast Alamance at Southern Nash. That's a game I like right there. West Craven at St. Paul's. Tell me the games that really excite you this week, Jim.
2 games, Havelock and Currituck. I think that's going to be a really good game. I think Havelock is going to win that game, but that's going to be a good one. And Southeast Alamance and Southern Nash, you know what? That's going to be a heck of a game right there. At first glance, I'd probably give it to Southern Nash, but that game could really go either way, to be honest with you.
Talk about a contrast of styles. Dixon is averaging almost 45 points in a game, and flip side, Northeast Guilford's got one of the better defenses I've seen in 5A football. Something's got to give there.
Yeah, I think Northeast Guilford will handle Dixon. Don't get me wrong, the running backs won't get a lot of yardage, but I think now Northeast Guilford will wear them down as the game progresses.
All right, Dale, let's look at some 5A football. Irwin at South Point. Irwin is a lot better than the 4-7 record. Concord at Crest. Crest, I think, they're looking really good. Forest Hills at Franklin. Montgomery Central at Hickory. North Davidson at Robinson. Oak Grove at Northwest Cabarrus. West Rowan at Monroe. West Henderson at East Lincoln. Man, there's a lot of good games. In fact, I could find something intriguing about of most of these games, Dale. Any thoughts?
Well, first of all, there's 5 teams here that I think are just the power, starting at East Lincoln, Hickory, South Point, Crest, and Robinson. I think those are all teams that have a shot. A lot of good games here. A lot of people to get through, and Monroe's sitting down there at 6-3 is another one of those kind of low win teams. I think you got to worry about. I think that West Henderson East Lincoln game could be an interesting game from a rival point, but I think all those favorites are going to advance on.
I could see Monroe getting by Westerland. Westerland's they're starting to play some really good football, but I could see them getting by them. The game that I think has potential to be the best game is that Oak Grove at Northwest Cabarrus. I think that one's got a chance to be a really good one. Jim, just 30,000 foot view. Who do you see as the favorites moving forward?
In the East, it's all over the place. South Point, Crest, East Lincoln, Hickory, J.M. Robinson. Don't forget Franklin. I think they're a really solid team.
Really
also.
Good.
Yeah.
And I do see Franklin getting by Forest Hills. And I think Franklin against Hickory the following week, I think that would be a unique game. 2 very contrasting styles, but also 2 very physical football teams. I might be at Frank Barger Stadium if they play that one. That's a year look at 5A. Let's move up to the 6A. It's starting to get more heavier as we look. Some heavyweights. Looking at last week's games, AC Reynolds all over South Caldwell, Asheville over Western Guilford, Central Cabarrus over Southeast Guilford, Dudley over Glenn. I think we all expected those wins. Kings Mountain escaped Ben Smith. Olympic, Dale, you were there. I know they were all over Ragsdale. St. Stephen's, I thought that they would beat Mount Tabor. That one was a great game. St. Stephen's is a very good 6-5 football team. Statesville over Alexander Central. Looking at the East, Franklinton over Grace Creek. Harnett Central in a great game over Southview. I thought that was a toss-up game. It went in Harnett Central's favor. J.H. Rose, remember last year, they went all the way to the semifinals. They were a 4-win team. I think they have the ingredients to do it again. Lee County escapes a really scrappy Westover team. Terry Sanford, they just score a lot of points. Vance County, that score is wrong, by the way. I think South Johnston beat Vance County. Isn't that right, Jim?
South Johnston won that game.
Yeah. That one there is off a little bit. No worries. And then West Brunswick over West Johnston, White Oak over East Rutherford. Let's look at the East playoffs. Franklinton at Williams, Harnett Central at Jacksonville, Rose at Southern Alamance, Lee at Union Pine, South Johnston at 71st, Terry Sanford at Scotland. That's a rematch. Scotland won that one late. West Brunswick at Middle Creek, White Oak at Northern Nash. There's some good teams out there, but I think a few of them are kind of looking to rise up above the pack, Jim.
Well, I agree with you. Keep your eye out for Union Pines. That Lee County Union Pines, they're pretty much next to each other, not that far from Sanford to Cameron. I think Union Pines wins that game. Williams and Franklinton should be a pretty decent game. I think Williams will prevail. But the big one there, that Rose is Southern Alamance, I don't think is on the upset if Rose wins that game. Rose is really good. Southern Alamance been a little, up and down this year, but I like Rose in that game.
Yeah, I don't really necessarily know that I see any major upset potential in this week. South Johnston is really good, but I think that 71st is probably just a little bit better. I don't think that regardless of who won between Terry Sanford and Scotland, I don't think either one of those would be an upset. I don't really know that I see anything that jumps off the map at me, Jim.
I agree with you. Nothing. That one game I was going to mention, Terry Sanford of Scotland, that is going to be a pretty decent game. I think Scotland has got the horses in that game, though.
They do. They won earlier. Tough to beat a team twice, but I think Scotland, they're really solid. Let's look at the West. AC Reynolds at Catholic. I really like Reynolds in this game. Catholic has kind of been reeling of late. We'll see if they can kind of get it back going with the Red Army. Asheville at Northern Guilford, Central Cabarrus Freedom, Dudley at Asheboro, Kings Mountain at TC Robertson, Olympic at Sun Valley, St. Stephen's at Watauga. They played that game 2 weeks ago. Watauga won 28-18. I think it's going to be brutally cold up on the mountain Friday. And then St. Statesville at Ashbrook. Dale, any thoughts on the top half of this bracket?
I like Ashbrook. I think Sun Valley's a great squad, and they have an opportunity as well. some people I've talked to seem to think they might be the best in the West here.
Yeah, that bottom side, I can see TC Robertson winning. Although Kings Mountain, I've seen them; they're good, but I could see TCR. They've got it going on. I can see them against Sun Valley, Watauga against Statesville. That top half of the bracket, I like Reynolds. That Northern Guilford Asheville team could be a good one, but I think Northern Guilford's got more horses. Jim, I'll throw it to you. Dudley at Asheboro, you've seen Asheboro, and Central at Freedom, Central Cabarrus. I could see Central Cabarrus. They kind of seem to have things rolling in the right direction. I think they can give Freedom a really tough game.
I agree with you on that. Never discount Donnie Kiefer team. I will go with Freedom in that game. I think it's going to be a really close one. But do not be surprised if Central Cabarrus wins that one. That Dudley-Asheboro game, you talk about a toss-up right there. That's going to be a really close one. Dudley's been there before. The coach has been there before. It's harder to discount that experience. I'm going to say Dudley in a very close one.
Yeah. Let's take a quick look at the private schools before we move on to the big time, the 7A, 8A. NCISAA first round. Look at last week's games. Nothing really stands out to me. I think the teams that we thought would win won. Cannon School, they're a really good team. They knocked off Latin Christian all over Country Day, Providence Day, as expected, all over North Raleigh, Raven Gap, the D2 schools, and again, nothing stands out. I think everything kind of goes through High Point Christian anyway in the D2 ranks. Looking at this week's big time games, and we've talked about the easy route to the championships for Providence Day. They're taking on Cannon. I think they beat them 50-something to 55-21 earlier in the year. In fact, Cannon gave Providence Day probably their toughest game, at least among private schools. Christian at Raven Gap, that one I think has a chance to be really competitive. Bottom half, Harold's at High Point Christian, Trinity at Asheville School. Can anybody beat Providence Day, guys? I don't know. I'll leave it up to y'all.
No,
nobody on that list.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't think so either. Can Jamal Rule and company, can they beat Raven Gap? I do think that one's got a little bit more of a chance of bringing the, a Christian Providence Day championship game.
I don't think so either. I mean, no disrespect to Charlotte Christian, but I think Raven Gap is they won the championship last year. The colder it gets, they are a big football team. They've played great competition. I think they want Providence Day again. And look to that game being closer if that matchup does happen, but I still think Providence Day is the best.
They may want him again, but watch what you wish for, right?
Very true.
Played with Coach, you would know. All right, guys. Hey, I got the crew on here, so that must mean we're talking about some big time football. 7A's here. What did Coach Grice say? The Fight Club. I think 7A. It is very competitive. Let's just take a look back at Friday night's games. A.L. Brown over South Iredale. I was at that game. Good game. Butler over Hopewell. Davie County all over West Meck. Although some people say that was a close game. East Forsyth over Sweat, Marvin Ridge over Chapel Hill, Page, Porter Ridge, West Cabarrus, all winners. Looking at the bottom half, Ashley over Cary. I thought that would be the case. Fuquay, New Bern, New Hanover, South Garner, Southern Durham, and Wake, all winners. Let's start with the East and just kind of go over that. And, Jim, I will probably yield to you. Ashley at Hillside. I think we had all agreed that Durham Hillside's probably going to come away. Fuquay at Gibbons. Oh, boy, Gibbons, they sure looking good. New Bern at Southeast Raleigh. New Hanover at Clayton. Sanderson at Cape Fear. South Garner, a rematch against Cleveland from a few weeks ago. Southern Durham at Conley, I think, is the best game in that bottom half. And then Wake Forest at Garner. But do you see any kind of potential for upsets, Jim?
Actually, I think Ashley and Hillside, that's a game I'm going to go to. And I think that game might be closer than we think, to be honest with you. Ashley, I know that they beat Cary 14-13. That didn't surprise me at all. I just not sold on Hillside. I saw them play earlier on. They got great coaching, but we'll see on that one. That Wake Forest Gardner game, that one could be a pretty good one. Wake Forest has really turned up at the end of the season, but I'm still going to pick Gardner to win that one.
Same. Let's take a look at the top games this week in the West, and I'll throw it to the panel. A.L. Brown or Reagan. I'm not going to sit here and say A.L. Brown's going to win, but I do think they match up well against the Raiders. We'll see. I don't know. That's going to be a tall task for the Wonders, but we'll see. Butler at Mooresville. I can't wait to get Coach Hales, your comments on that one. Davy at Jack Britt. That's the 2004 4A state championship game right there. I think it was, or semifinal game. I can't remember. They played back in the day, or maybe it was a regional semifinal game. I think I got my years off. East Forsyth at North Davidson, Marvin Ridge at Weddington, Page at Indy, Porter Ridge at Richmond, West Cabarrus at Grimsley. Who wants to start? Cam, you ain't been with us a while. I'm going to give it to you. Pick a game and tell us what you think.
Well, I mean, I'll just stick in my backyard. I'll talk about two. The A.L. Brown-Reagan game. I thought A.L. Brown, when I saw the brackets come out, I thought they got one of the most favorable first and second round pairings they could have in South Iredell and Reagan. I think they match up very well with Reagan. If they can continue to run the ball well, I don't think Reagan can put up enough points. If this game gets to where A.L. Brown's maybe got 28 to 30 on the board, I don't see Reagan's offense being explosive enough to keep up. I could be wrong, but I mean, they do have to travel. We'll see how that, plays into it. But then, West Cabarrus and Grimsley, Gary talked about it earlier, Coach Jenkins with his defense, but that's a whole different level of having to have a good defense when you're playing against, Faison Brandon and just the weapons that Grimsley has all over their offense. And I mean, defensively, Grimsley's really sound as well. So that's going to be a tall task for really anybody in the state. But I've got Grimsley rolling in that one.
Yeah, just the A.O. Brown, A.J. Settles, you got 1,200 yard rusher and Greer. But where I was the most impressed, and I've seen this Kannapolis team really grow since that first week close loss to Porter Ridge. They're much bigger and much more physical on the defensive side. They are a much better team. I'm not sure they got the horses to beat Reagan. Reagan's got one of the best defensive fronts I've seen, but I do think that the trajectory of the Wonders is looking good. Coach Hells, you got to go up to Joe Pop Stadium, Mooresville. They look really good on film. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, just excited for the opportunity to go up there and see what we can do this week. Obviously they're having a great season. The two games that they lost, I mean, we're talking about a loss to Weddington and a loss to Huff. So, it's not like they're losing to, they lost to just anybody. There are things obviously on offense. We had the quarterback on the show. He could do so many things so well. It's almost like they got an assembly line of kids that roll off that are like between 6'2" and 6'5", like 240 and 260. Like they got a bunch of them. And they do just so many different things defensively that, we're going to have to prepare for. But, like I said last week, we're in the playoffs. We got a heartbeat. I think the kids still continue to want to be coached. They still want to continue to get better. So, we'll see what happens. But, I think it's a great environment to go to, fortunate enough to take a team up there several years ago and, to play in Joe Pop Stadium and all that. It's a really cool environment. I love that our kids and our kids' families get to experience that. And that's the cool thing about, getting to play some of these games in the playoffs where you're not just seeing the same schools every, that you see in the regular season. So excited about it, man.
The November nightmare is coming for everybody.
Why not, man? Don't look over here, man. Don't watch us. Just y'all. Everybody else worry about everybody else's business.
Two major matchups that I'm intrigued about, probably the more closer matchups, is can the some dark horses that that weren't talked about being in that square necessarily. Can East Forsyth and Lake Norman game, very intriguing game to me, and then the Porter Ridge and Richmond Senior game, very intriguing to me. I think both of those games could go either way. I honestly think they're 50-50 type games. I could be off on that, but I think both of those games could be, the simple aspect of the turnover battle. Whoever wins that turnover battle can win those games. And so, when we were talking about the bracket, Lake Norman and, Richmond Senior, potentially could upset somebody. And they got to win these games. They got tough matchups in this round, really tough matchups.
Gary, I want to ask you this. You've been around a long time. I mean, we got some good games this week for sure, but looking at it, potentially there could be some epic games next week. Richmond at Grimsley, Indy at Weddington, maybe Lake Norman and Britt, or East Forsyth and Britt. We're not sure. The top side's a little bit more murky because I think that there's some good matchups, but could a team like Indy or a team like, Weddington, could they get caught potentially looking ahead to next week and slip up this Friday?
There's always that potential. I don't think, Weddington will fall asleep because not only is that is it a playoff game, that's a local rival. So that'll get their attention. Now, Independence and Page, that might be interesting.
What is interesting about that, Gary? Page and Independence.
Just the name.
Well, the tradition.
How many points you want on that game? I'll give you Page.
I mean, I'm not saying that Page can beat Independence by any means.
I got
you. You know, it's the first game. Page has played a game. Independence has had a week off.
That's a great point.
Those things matter a little bit, not a lot.
I like it.
But
that Page team is also a fundamentally sound team too. I saw them play earlier on the season. They're not going to make mistakes for you.
Yeah.
Can they survive DJ's script though?
No, I think it's going to be Independence, but I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think it is.
I'm not predicting an upset, Sam, but you know it is the playoffs. Every team in this round is good.
Yes,
exactly.
Agree.
Every team in this round is good.
Everybody has to show up and play. You're not going to win any of these games except for maybe Grimsley, and I hate to say that, just by getting off the bus and being better.
You know, I think the one game to me that gets my attention on the bottom half of the West there, the one that could screw all that up is that Porter Ridge-Richmond game. You know, Hurts is a guy that's taken teams into some tough places. I think they went up to Grimsley a couple of years ago maybe and knocked them off like one of the last times they were playing for a state championship, or they took them down to the wire. But, you know, Coach does a great job down there at Porter Ridge. He's been doing it for years, and I think that could be a sneaky fun game to watch right there is that Porter Ridge-Richmond game.
That's what I was saying. Those two, that game, East Forsyth and Lake Norman, those games right there.
East Forsyth and Lake Norman is the one that catches my eye because of the styles. You know, we always talk about styles make fights and matchups. I like the different styles between East Forsyth and Lake Norman.
You know,
and Gary, you said you had Page over Independence, right? I did hear
No.
No, that's what, Gary, you did say that. Don't lie.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Y'all trying to get something started.
I want to say this about Richmond County. I have been there about 3 times this year. I've given away, I think, 3 Game of the Week footballs to some of their guys. Their quarterback, Evan Hodges, Amir Morrison, the receiver. I don't know why he don't have like a dozen offers. I mean, that guy is maybe one of the best receivers I've seen this year. But their line at Richmond looks like those old school lines that you saw back in the mid-2000s. I just think that this Richmond team, they've just got something special about them. You know, you can say all the Raider magic you want, but especially playing at home, I just don't know that I could see Porter Ridge coming down there and getting in within about 28. I don't know.
Yeah. And I want to be clear about something. I don't think, like, say Independence wins and Weddington wins, they don't play next week. I think that would be 2 weeks from now. I think Independence, if they win, they got to match up with Richmond County next week. If I looked at the brackets earlier, I'm not seeing the bracket right here in front of me, but I think that's what the potential matchups would be. You'd be in the round of
Gotcha.
Either way, those are some ugly colors all on the field at one time. Ain't that right?
At one time, that's a lot of green.
Seriously, straight up allergy season.
All right, man. Jim, any final thoughts on the 7A West?
I feel like what everybody was saying earlier on. I think Grimsley and Weddington, this is from last week, I think those two teams are destined to meet. Mooresville and Independence, they could come into play on that, but I think, again, it's Weddington, Grimsley.
So Grimsley's quarterback is coming back this week, right?
That's the word.
That changes things. Like I said, I was not picking Grimsley to win the 7A state championship if he didn't come back, and everybody was like, "That's crazy," you know. I think he makes a huge difference. You know, huge difference.
Really? You think the number 1 ranked quarterback in the country makes a difference?
I know, right? Well, I think
be careful out on that limb.
They were saying the way that they were saying it was they were going to win it anyways. I didn't think they could win it without him.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I agree. All right, guys. Hey, we put a bow on the 7A. Let's look at the 8A, big time football. Looking at last week's games again. Chambers, we talked about it, came from behind, knocked off.
I don't like how Hell's laughed because he doesn't think there's a lot of teams up there right now.
It's the pickleball tournament, baby. Let's go.
He's giggling, like, I'm not trying to cut you off, Hughes, but like it's just like the giggle guy on the bottom right. There's a lot of good teams up here now. Look at that big bold. You can read it up there. You can read it easily. It's good stuff.
There's not a lot of teams, let alone a lot of good teams.
Unbelievable. Get this guy out of here.
All right. Well, there you see. Chambers, Palisades, Providence, West Forsyth, all winners in the East. Leesville Road, Panther Creek. I was a little surprised by Panther Creek beating Enlow. I will not lie. Rollsville all over Green Hope. I think that's as expected. Willow Spring over Laney shocked me. Jim, any thoughts on last week's East games?
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I had Enlow and Laney winning, and really surprised with both of those.
Looking at the East playoffs, you got Leesville at Jordan. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, Leesville at Jordan, Panther Creek at Millbrook, Rollsville at Friendship, Willow Spring at Hoggard. I know the lower seed Rollsville would be at Apex Friendship. That's not an upset, but I do see Rollsville winning. I think Millbrook take care of business. Leesville Road and Jordan could be a little bit more intriguing. That was a 2-point game week 1 of the season. Any thoughts on this week, Jim West?
I like Jordan in that first game. I know Leesville Road's a good team. I just think Jordan's improved as the season's gone on. Jordan, Millbrook, Rollsville, and Hoggard, the teams that I see winning next week in the East.
And you guys got any thoughts on the East?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Roseville, Millbrook. I think Roseville's so talented, and like we talked about last week, I mean, they didn't lose to some chumps along the way. Like they lost to 3 really good games, really good teams. So I think it's going to be a heck of a game, that Roseville Millbrook game.
All right.
Because I think that's the one that's going to happen.
All right. I think it's 28-0 earlier in the year. Is that correct? 28-7. But I think Rollsville's a better team today than they were.
Mm-hmm.
They're extremely talented and dangerous. If a team like that gets hot, they're extremely dangerous, no doubt, because of the talent.
Agreed.
I think Millbrook won 28-7 over Rollsville, and the next week they beat Leesville Road 28-0. So great.
Yep.
Millbrook's got a great defense.
The West, Chambers at Myers Park, Palisades at Huff, Providence at West Charlotte, West Forsyth at Mallard Creek. Hey, all these games in Charlotte, that's going to spread the resources thin. Are these going to be any of them HPE games? Or what's the tickets going to look like? And what do y'all think?
I mean, what I think the first thing I think, man, shout out, Captain Munderland and that crew up at Chambers. I think, going into this year, it was a little bit of an eye opener for him. You listen to him talk and, just getting into high school football and see what it was like. But, for those guys to make the comeback that they did, this past Friday night, get into the second round, man, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the kids. But as far as the HPE stuff, like, I don't know about you guys. I haven't heard a word about it in about 2 weeks. Like, it was one of those things that popped up and it just kind of disappeared again.
It's not happening unless West Charlotte's involved.
that might be the truest statement.
Chambers was talking about Captain Munderland. He was on the staff at Myers Park up to last year, I believe. Do you think the familiarity with him and the program against Myers Park, do you think that gives him a little bit of a leg up, going into the preparation for this game?
I mean, I think it helps. I don't know how much. I don't know if it helps enough to tip the scales one way or another. Because again, ultimately, it's you have to take what you know and what you learned, in his regard, and not just teach it to the kids, but then for them to be able to execute it against that team on the field. And I think that's a lot of stuff, to work through. But no, I think there's definitely some things that can help out, some tips here and there, knowing the coaching staff and things like that. But, if it comes down to like, hey, I know what this call means, I mean, I'm pretty sure Myers Park would probably be prepared for something like that and even have something to work against them in a situation like that.
Yeah. Cam, what do you see?
I mean, besides the one game that I was looking at, the West Forsyth Mallard Creek game, I think it's going to be pretty chalk. I like Myers Park by a lot, Huff by a lot, West Charlotte by a lot. But this West Forsyth Mallard Creek matchup, I know Tinsley's probably not too happy with the way that panned out. West Forsyth, they're a lot better than I'm sure many might think, and that this game could be really close. I mean, defensively, just since the start of October, West Forsyth beat East Forsyth in overtime, then had 4 straight shutout wins, and their first playoff game only gave up 7 points. So, I mean, it's going to be a battle of defenses in which defense can hold the opposition to the fewest amount of points.
The West Forsyth game is a little interesting. They have the best running back probably in the 8A, or one of them anyway, in Moses Morris. But if you can stop him, I think you got a good chance of winning. And I like the defensive front that I've seen. I think Mallard Creek plays good defense. I'm not so sure that I still think Mallard Creek will win that ball game.
Yeah, I think they're going to win. I just don't think it's going to be quite the margin that maybe some of the other ones I feel like. Because I think Myers Park, Huff, and West Charlotte could all three win by 20 plus.
Because Moses Morris, he's the dude. He's legit. Yeah. But you take him away from West Forsyth, he scored over half their touchdowns. I don't think they're nearly as tough. Plus, I don't think they've played nearly as tough a schedule as anybody in Charlotte.
Oh, well, that's definitely true.
I'm sure Lake Norman wish Moses Morris was still back there toting the note for him.
No
but
kidding, he is a dude.
No, I mean the thing with Mallard Creek too is they just, and Coach knows this more than anyone, but like they just got to make sure they're not doing things to keep West Forsyth in the game. I've seen them 15-yard penalty here, 15-yard penalty there, and and that's the thing, especially this time of year. Like I don't care who you are. You can't afford to do that and give teams first downs in those situations.
Hey, let's look at that Palisades at Huff game. I mean, Huff's obviously the top team in the bracket. We know how strong they are. But Palisades, at 8-3, I think they're only like 14 points away. They had two 1-touchdown games and a 1-point game or a 2-point loss from being undefeated. They're a good team. Dale's talked about it in the show. They had leads well into the fourth quarter in every game they lost. So I think that they're a little bit of a better team than the record. But does anybody give them a shot? How do we feel about that game at Huff?
Honestly, I don't want to be disrespectful. I think that Huff can pitch a shutout in this game. That would surprise me if they didn't. They're a very tough defense, and you're playing at Huff. Palisades, they look very explosive at times. But they're used to if they can get up on a lead and make the game tough, that'd be great. But it's just tough sledding right there. It's just a different caliber. Huff, I think, is just a different level for them, and they'll feel that. You'll see that in the first couple of drives. If they feel like they can play with them in the first couple of drives, then maybe it can get a little interesting. And they still got to worry about, like Dale says, that fourth quarter that he always talks about. So
to piggyback off Sam there, talking about, I put it in the chat. I don't want to be disrespectful either, but I think Palisades will be lucky to score 2 touchdowns, maybe even score twice, period, because this Huff defense, they're in my top 3 with West Charlotte's defense and Weddington's. I think those 3 defenses are forces to be reckoned with across the board. It's Huff, just they lean on you, and eventually you're just going to break down. And I would be interested to see how many times Palisades maybe even crosses the 50.
Wow. I want to pull a Langston. The guys, that is Cam Williams, and that is Coach Sam Griner when y'all start running that on loop.
I think Simmons has done one of the best jobs there is. Like I put him up there in one of the best program starters we've seen in CMS in a long time. I think he's done a great job. It's just I don't think he was excited about running into he had a great win versus South Meck. That was an emotional win, and they keep improving every year. I know that they wanted a piece of the conference title, but you just they'd rather. I don't think they wanted to see Huff in the second round.
All right. Hey, Coach Griner, since I got you, I heard you snuck into the sideline at Providence, and you were trying to get in the huddle and wear their headsets. Give us the breakdown on how you feel about your game against them.
I mean, yeah, I picked up on every signal they have. It was fantastic. No, they're a good football team. Like I said, they've won 7 games in a row. After that, their quarterback played his first game versus us, and after that, he's rolled off 7 wins in a row, and they're playing with a lot of momentum. Won the conference championship in their conference, and they run the ball really well. They're very physical. They got a good defensive front. They got some of the highest recruited players on their team in the state. They got 3 guys that are very recruitable, highly recruitable, and it's just time that we take care of what we do. We got a mission. They're in the way of the mission, and it's just what it is. It's just what's going to happen.
All right. Jim West, you're the expert here. I'm going to give you the last word on the 8A West and how you feel it's going to shake out.
I think it's going to come down to West Charlotte and Huff in the last game. No disrespect to West Forsyth or Mallard Creek. Actually, I think West Forsyth is going to win that game, Mallard Creek, for whatever reason. I do think that's going to happen. I think Chambers and Myers Park, I don't think that's either one of those teams is going to have anything for Huff or West Charlotte, but it's going to come down between Huff and West Charlotte, and I'm going to give West Charlotte the slight edge.
All right. That is Jim West. Guys, we're going to take a break and come back here on Talking Preps with the Mr. Football semifinalists, so don't go anywhere.
Every week on Thursday and Saturday morning, get the latest in high school news from around the region in the Charlotte Observer's free newsletter, Talking Preps, the newsletter. Make sure you sign up now. All right, it's time to name the Mr. Football semifinalists. Sam has done this for the past 6 years. Sam, how tough is it to get down to 10, 11, 12 guys when you're talking about an entire state as big as this one?
It's extremely tough. I mean, you're talking about, we look at matchups, productivity. There's a lot of guys that are highly recruited, top ranked guys. They still got to produce. It's not just about the eye test; it's about production. And a lot of times, I'll mention someone. They call him Smoke over there at Huff. He does a great job. A lot of times, people don't throw the ball at him because he's so good. This year, people have thrown at him, and he still made them pay.
So good.
He's made them pay, and I think that he's going to be up in the discussion for this. There's some other top recruits, and there's some guys like we just saw that was on one of our top players this week that's dominating, this rushing the ball for 900 yards a game, basically.
Let's take a look at him, Sam. Tyreek Copper of Kinston, NC State recruit. Jackson Dollar, East Lincoln, Notre Dame recruit, having a beautiful year as a junior class. Rodney Dunham, Myers Park, committed to Notre Dame. JJ Gillette, the guy you're talking about, I think he moved up to number 4 in America actually after last week. With 3,138 yards. Aiden Harris of Weddington, who was the Observer's Defensive Player of the Year last year. Nobody's talking about Weddington. I'm sure Andy Capone kind of likes that, maybe doesn't. Eli Hamrick of Crest, we talk about him a lot. Big quarterback, having a big year. Kendra Harrison, who was the Gatorade National Male Athlete of the Year previously. He's a football and basketball guy. He's going to Oregon to play football. Grant Lawless, Sam, you've been real high on the quarterback. Zaid Lott, another quarterback Sam's been real high on. We talked about Samari Matthews Smoke. Jamore Nichols, your guy, Sam, made the list, having a great year for your team. And then Oboko from South Garner, who's just, killing it on defense up there. Chris, when you see this list, what do you think? Did we get it right? Are we close?
Oh, yeah, we absolutely got it right. Sure, there are some guys out there who have put up tremendous numbers and have played some good football this year that you could make an argument that, you could give them the notoriety of being on this watch list or the semifinal list. But you know what? You're semifinalists for a reason. These are the cream of the crop that stood up, that have stood the test of time, not only putting up big numbers, putting up, being good leaders of their team, but also playing against some of the best competition in the state. So I think this list is absolutely spot on.
Well, it was
you look at a guy like the guy from South Gardner, D tackles. It's not necessarily all about sacks. People don't understand stopping the run game. Y'all see that 23 tackles for loss? And come on.
Insane, he has 52 tackles and 45 solo. That's insane.
That is amazing.
He's Derek Brown. He's Derek Brown.
He's doing but he demands a double team, sometimes a triple team.
Yeah,
and that opens up, and so that his impact, when you watch the film, he's a huge impact player. So some people are going to look at this thing, well, man, I got 14 sacks. How come I'm not on this list? It's all about overall impact.
Yeah.
And these guys are impacting the game on the highest standard, and they're really producing right now for Mr. Football.
Gary and Dale and Hales, you guys haven't seen this list. Just 30 seconds each one of you as you look at it. What are your thoughts? Let's start with Hales.
I think the one thing, like you'll hear some people say, well, what about this kid? Why isn't he on it? Why isn't this one on it? If that's the case, you want to make, who do you take off? That's the thing. I don't think anybody that's on this list is not deserving of being, not just a semifinalist, but, obviously a player of the year. This is, again, great athletes, great size, but the production against the competition is the thing that really gets my attention.
Yeah. Dale?
Asked if it was spot on. Don't know if it's spot on, but damn, it sure looks like it's real close. There's a lot of good ball players on here, right?
I don't know how I'm going to take the list to the finalists. That's going to be hard.
I'm like Hales. Who do you take off of here? You know, you can't, like Sam said, you can't just say I had these stats.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you have them against? What does the other team have to do about what you can do on the field, or what this particular player could do on the field?
Yeah.
Good
I mean,
players here.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about like we said, you know, Smoke. Like you can easily just say, I'm not throwing at this guy, but eventually their defense is so overwhelming, you're going to take some shots, and he made you pay on those. I mean, all those stats are probably just. I would love to know how many balls are actually called on them. Probably not a lot.
Well,
and then let's look at Tyree Copper, excuse me. Like, you know how hard it is to be that productive at receiver? The line has to block extremely well. The quarterback has to deliver the ball. And you're talking about he's getting close to 2,000 yards receiving in high school. That is unbelievable. 24 touchdowns, 77 catches. I mean, he's got like Wes Welker type catches, and he's got Randy Moss type numbers.
Yeah,
all touchdowns right now.
Well, and the thing too, like you're saying about, you know, Smoke Matthews and Huff, like that's like the Barry Bonds thing. Like Barry Bonds would see like 3 strikes a week and hit 2 of them for home runs.
Exactly.
You know, so I mean that's the thing. Like they're not testing them when they do. They're getting paid. You know, you're paying for it. And then the other thing, like looking at Keandre Harrison, think, well, gosh, he's only had 43 catches, but look how many of them went for touchdowns. Like half of his catches end up almost in the end zone. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, he was. You guys remember he was at Providence State for 1 game last year before he went back to Reedsville. Gary, put a ball on this for me. This is your first time taking a look at this list.
Well, it's not about so much who's on it. It's what are they going to do now that they are on it, and they know they're on it. And the competition gets better. And I'm assuming the finalists will come out in 2 more weeks. So now they got a chance to not only impact the wins on their team by going deeper in the playoffs, but to continue their consistency and maybe do something that stands out among the competitors on this list. You know, I'm looking at how well they compete against one another as far as what they do for their teams over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, Gary knows the format. 2 weeks, we will name the finalists, and we will name the winner live on the show Tuesday, December the 9th, 8 p.m. Mr.
Now,
Football.
hey, and that list is pretty special. Like, it would not surprise me if you look back at this 5 years from now and these kids are in the NFL. At least 50% of those.
You know, I used to always doubt Sam and his football knowledge, but he told me a long time ago he had this kid on his football team who's going to be the best player in the country. He's a freshman. And he turned out to be the best player in the country. He told me 3 or 4 years ago Drake May is going to be the best high school quarterback ever out of Charlotte. And it's hard to argue with what he's doing right now. So I don't argue with you, Sam. I just listen to you nowadays. But they
only talk about my home runs. They don't talk about my misses.
No, I mean we talk about those too. But I listen to you. You have my ear. So
he came up to me in a flashy white suit, dressed like Ric Flair, and shoe shine that you could look at, glass shoes, and told me that he was going to beat Scotland, who had dominated everybody all year. That's and guess what? He beat Scotland.
And he had no hair on his face. He was clean shaved.
Yeah, I was cold. I'm talking. That was a bad decision. I was a rookie mistake back then. That was a bad decision.
All right. Well, look, we're gonna take a break right here, and we're gonna come back. My favorite part of the show. I'm gonna give it back to the #1 voice of high school football. We're gonna do Coach versus Coach.
Hi, I'm Scott Fowler, sports columnist at the Charlotte Observer. I have been here 31 years, but you know what I never have had before here? A newsletter. I've got one now. It's free. I'd love you to sign up for it and get my take. Every single time I have a column, you'll see it first. Panthers, Hornets, college sports, high school sports, whatever controversies going on. Sign up for my free newsletter, and you will be able to get my column every single time earlier than anyone else.
Is this the favorite time right now? We finally get
This
here.
is the favorite time of year, going into the second round. Got the playoff beards going on, the hoodies. Let's lock the door.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
All right, take me a swig of some ice cold sun drop. You know, I got the wedding in the rearview mirror. I've already. Whoop, sorry about that. I've already fit into the suit. I can gain a few pounds now, so all good. But anyway, coach versus coach, second round of the playoffs. Let's hit it. Coach Griner, are you going to take the ball and run with it?
Yeah, I can't follow those two. They're too good now. So I'm taking the ball right now. I got to make an impact right away.
All right, well, hey, let's hit it first. First question
He
here.
doesn't have a kicker. He doesn't have a kicker.
Right. Needs good field position to start.
Yeah, field position. We're working on punt.
Is he going to jump off sides a couple times?
There you go. Chambers, they were 5-6, rallied from 31 to 13 down to beat Pinecrest. By the way, they were 8-3, 32-31 on the road Friday. What does this say about the strength of Mecklenburg County football? Pinecrest finished second in its league.
Yeah, it just talks about what we always talk about, that, Charlotte football, and that's the reason why we're trying to make a bigger stage for pay, all types of pay, all surrounds the same thing. There's great football in this area. It is one of the top 5 cities in the NFL for all people playing in the NFL. Top 5. There's a reason for that. The competition sharpening each other. Every week you're going against someone. There's very talented people on every team. And Chambers is a very dangerous football team. I mean, it was tough sledding for us when we played them. We're considered one of the best teams in the state. And they're 5-6. They're 5-6. And they were 4-6 before that game. And Mecklenburg football is top notch. It's the best there is in North Carolina, maybe the best in both surrounding areas. You go North and South Carolina, all the Carolinas, the hub in that 704. Anything that touches 704 is elite.
Coach Hales, you beat Chambers earlier this year, so you know how good they are. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I just like I said earlier in the show, I'm very proud of them. I love that they went down there and did that. But to me, it just reinforces what it's always been. I moved to Charlotte, early 2000s, and it's always been, where the champions usually came from, in high school football. And, I knew there was pockets, especially down there around Fayetteville. They have great football down there as well. But Charlotte's always been great, and the other thing about it, if you want to really, kind of focus that lens up a little more, Sam, that's another one of our conference teams, So we've got basically our whole conference, and North Meck should have probably been in the playoffs, but everybody else from our conference that made the playoffs is on to the second round. I mean, find me another conference in either state that's doing this.
If North Meck would have got in, I would go out on a limb and say I think they could have pulled an upset, and you would have seen everybody in our conference get through the second round.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that's a stretch, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Gary.
Well, I think what sticks out to me is that the kids believe in their head coach, and their head coach is learning as the season progresses. So, it's a dynamic where the coach is learning and the players are believing, and I think that's a credit to Captain Mullen and his staff, because they took some beatings in midseason, and they could have easily said, "Hey, let's go ahead and get ready to send the helmets to get reconditioned and start this process over again next season." But they're still fighting through, and I think that's a credit to the coaching staff at Chambers.
My favorite thing about him, I know we're long on it right now, but I want to mention it. I mentioned it before in shows before, but Captain Mullen, when they got their quarter, I think he played this past game. I didn't watch the game. Did he come back in the Pinecrest game? It wasn't the tall JV kid. He's still good. But they run a wing T style offense when he's there. And it is, you wouldn't think an NFL type guy, like I'm not running wing T type stuff, but it was a beautiful thing to watch when we were preparing for it. I mean, it's a lot of illusion. It's pretty tough to deal with. And you get athletes in space, and you don't necessarily have to throw it to them. You just create illusion. And I love what he's doing over there. I really do.
All right, guys. Question number 2, coach versus coach. As a coach, what's the best way to deal with players having nerves in playoffs, particularly in those big game moments? Coach Hales, we'll start with you.
The most important thing is you got to know your players, because what may work, if I've got you 3 on the team, like, I might have to tell Sam and reassure him, hey, you're a great player. Look how good looking you are. Gary, I might have to throat chop you. And Chris, I might have to like tie your shoes together and like make you trip and fall. Like, it's just, that's where you've got to know your kids and what motivates them and what relaxes them. Like, I've had quarterbacks some years where, like, right before we go out for our first series, I'll stay with them and take a deep breath, relax. Like, Riley Ferguson, we're in a big moment, back in like 2011 or something like that. And he looks at me, he's like, hey, let's go be famous. So it's different guys. You just got to know your team. And to me, that's the most important thing. And that's really one of the most fun things is knowing those kids and knowing what brings out the best in them and what keeps them calm.
Gary, you've got over a quarter of century of dealing with players, not only in football, but also in the basketball ranks. What would your way of being to deal with these big moments be with young players?
Yeah, y'all notice how Chris always prefaces my questions with my age, about how old I am.
Only because there's
all the time.
Yeah, but my mentality, whether I've been coaching football or basketball, is to attack. Just attack. Don't wait to get hit in the mouth. Throw the first punch. If the first punch doesn't land, at least you tried. I mean, it's like being in a fight. If you know you're going to be in a fight and you can't get away and you can't get protection, you better throw the first punch because you might not get a second punch. So, my mindset has always been be in attack mode early. If that means blitzing, if that means throwing a deep ball, running a trick play, whatever, be in attack mode and build that attack mentality into your kids. And if the attack doesn't work, well, at least you tried to throw the first punch. But don't let your kids come out there in a big game and have them waiting, being conservative and, we're playing not to lose and that type of thing. I always say attack right off the bat. And, if their nerves are still there after attacking, then, hey, that's them. But you got to attack.
Yeah, I really wish we didn't do this question. I want people to just play with their nerves. The other people, I don't want to talk about it. So like Hale says, there's always unique situations. You got to know your players well, how you make, how you push them. There's some people you encourage more, and there's some people you get on a little bit more to get the most out of them. That's part of being a coach. But the nerves are pretty simple on the aspect of playing for, championship type level teams. You sharpen each other in practice every day. The respect they get from the brother next to them, you ain't getting on the field unless you got their respect. To be on that top 11 on special teams, offense or defense, that's the thing that's pretty spectacular. We always joke around about West Charlotte and our kicking game. If we get this here, I'm telling you right now, those kids have had to go through the fire with our guys that have been in the, fire from state championship games last year and things like that. And they're saying you're going to get there. They kind of coach them to this moment now, but now in these moments they're getting bigger and they matter more. They're prepared for it. And it's pretty cool to see the transformation from the beginning to now. But I would say just the respect that they have in practice, nerves in a game, it's finally they get to go do what they're supposed to do. They get tired of hitting each other in practice. I can tell you that.
All right, guys, question 3, final one. Gary, I'm going to put my glasses on because I'm an old guy too, so I've got to be able to read it. How do distractions ramp up for a coach in the postseason? Give us some examples. Gary, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, the parents, they want to know ahead of time, with a lot of emails. What time are you leaving? How do you get there? Are they going to have a pregame meal? Are they going out to eat, or are we still going to provide meals at the school? I mean, you get all kind of logistics questions that can be a distraction for the coach that you might not have in the regular season. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to make sure your staff is used to their assignments when you travel. You don't want them to have somebody say, oh, I forgot the balls, or I forgot the film, or not the film, but the projector, or whatever is being used. I saw Sam setting up cameras the first game of the season, and I got on him about that. I was like, you don't need to be doing this before playing Grimsley. You got all these guys over there, and you doing all the work, so.
I need my end zone camera, Gary. I need my end zone camera. I need it working right. All right.
I know, but you've had that end zone camera more than a year. Them guys didn't know how to work it, But those are the things that kind of you deal with as a coach. And then also you got, I can't remember. Y'all have to tell me, are we still on the quarter system with grades in CMS, or are we on the semester system as far as 2.0?
Quarter.
Semesters now. No, it's semester.
You're talking about like we used to have quarter grades that come out, but
right as far as the eligibilities.
Eligibility.
Yeah.
I know CMS at one time. We were on the quarter system with that 2.0, and you get ready to play a playoff, and then here comes the assistant principal, the AD saying you got to pull these 3 kids, because of
I remember that. That was still around like 2004, 2005.
Yeah. So that used to be a distraction. I'm glad it's not anymore. But those are some of the things you have to deal with as a coach that I remember. Now it may be something new. Like I said, y'all know I'm the old guy since Chris said what happened in the old days, So let's find out what happens in the new days.
Well, Gary, when you say that, Sam, you got to make sure you bring your projector with you. You don't need Chris's help to prove that you're old. I don't even know the last time I saw a projector.
Coach Hales.
Slides up.
No, I think the big thing, though, like what Gary said, is the logistical part of it. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten questions emailed to me that, like, very easily could be placed into Google, and you get the same answer without me having to answer the question for you. So, like, it's trying to figure things like that out, where we have a pregame meal, what time we leave in, especially if it's a place like you've never gone to, or like, like us this week going up to Mooresville, like, if you look on Sunday morning, it says it's going to take like 48 minutes to get there. But we all know on Friday afternoon is not taking 48 minutes.
2 hours.
So, like, trying to figure that part out, the pregame meal stuff. And then another one that's, really neat to fall sports is we just had the time change. So now you're having to try, and especially if you got a coaching staff that's coming from off campus, if you don't have a lot of guys in the building, like trying to make sure you have practice set up and it's efficient enough where you can get in and get your practice done before it gets dark. Like, like in our case, like we're not going to be able to use the game field this week because they're putting the track down now. So like we wouldn't even be able to turn the lights on. So like that's a thing that, it's a distraction, but that's where, again, experience matters. And we've talked about this even with the pay thing, and that if you've got an experienced coaching staff, or at least, enough guys on your staff that have been through it, you kind of have plans laid out already. You know what some of those pitfalls are going to be, and you kind of avoid some of those traps before before you get caught up on them.
Yeah. Some of the biggest distractions, I mean, the piggyback, I don't want to repeat the same things they're saying because all those are very true, exactly what they're saying. This quarter one just passed, and then the next thing you know, you're getting hit over the head. Hey, this kid right here is got a D in this class, or this kid's got he's failing in this class. He needs to get these assignments turned in. And it's always like right when the first playoff games are starting, or it's the end of the season. You're like, okay, why no one filled out something that they're missing these assignments? And I'm not giving the kids any type of slack here where they can, they need to get their work done. But we give out, a progress report every 2 weeks. You kind of want to, like, if there's any situations going, you don't want to be hit over the head when the quarter ends. Those are the major distractions where everybody looks to football coaches, and it goes back to the pay situation. It could be the culture in the school. It could be, not disciplinary issues. They'll go to the football staff, and they'll want you to take care of the problems. And so it takes into your time. It takes into other people's time. And then next thing you know, you work a full load. Those are the main distractions because we don't have a second planning period. At least I don't. And you're like, my gosh, guys, like all we're trying to do is win a football game.
And now, Chris, I'll tell you the distraction that used to tick me off, and it probably does these guys too, is now you're starting to have more teacher absences. Yes. And you don't have enough substitute teachers, okay? And then they want you to go cover somebody else's class. Yep. Mm-hmm. That one really ticks you off at this time of year. Coach, we need you to cover this class.
Yep. Case in point, I had to go to Cleveland County to visit with the coach of a top team last week. Had it scheduled out. I show up on campus, and he's like, well, you're going to have to meet with my assistant coach. They called me in to proctor a test.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't, you can say no, but, I don't know. I've said no once in a very harsh way, and they learned not to bother me on Fridays, but, it could happen, all during the week. Rumor has it that the teachers are calling in sick tomorrow because the legislature hadn't approved their raise for this year. And so they're getting ready, across the state.
I didn't get that memo.
Hell, fill it tomorrow with a lot of absences.
If we didn't have practice, me and Hells might be out right now.
All right, let's keep the teachers out of trouble with the legislation. Great show tonight, guys. As Sam alluded to a little bit earlier, we are heavy, but this time of year we're going to be heavy a couple times. But Sam will put the big man in his one shot. What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are just enjoy this cold weather. This is the time we all dream about when we're talking about in August. We're finally here. Go see your local teams. Even if you haven't seen them all year long, go check out the Butlers. Go check out West Charlotte. Go check out Palisades versus Huff. Go to a game and really enjoy it. Support those. It's nothing like looking into the stands and seeing it fully packed. You'll remember those moments forever. It's fantastic time right now.
I just hope, as Chris alluded to earlier, CMS doesn't put that HP on any of these games coming up. That's just my hope. I hope all the fans
that's what you're dealing with, though. See, you split the gate. I don't know if they can do it right now because now you're splitting the gate with the other team,
and you got to give some to
exactly. So it's a whole different.
Well, they said that policy would extend to the playoffs, and I think if I can see like Huff West Charlotte. If it gets to that, I
don't think they have jurisdiction.
West Charlotte Myers Park, if it gets to that.
State, the NCHSAA.
Can I win a game right here? Like
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to think of the games I can see them. I can see them.
I don't think they can. I'm with Chris because
I owe that AD.
I hope you guys are right. I just want the fans to be able to go to these games. Selfishly, I would love to see a game at Bank of America Stadium. That last week in November, that'd be pretty awesome. But anyway, we've been on here for a long time, so let's let these guys go. That is Sam Grinder, the two-time state championship high school football coach. That's Dale Ross, the CMS historian. That's Gary Richmond, the former CMS coach. That's Brian Hales, the three-time state championship coach from Butler. That's Chris Hughes. Again, you see it every week. He is the number one voice of high school football. Nobody in the state, nowhere, no show, nobody can do what he does, and we're just happy to have him. I'm Langston, and we are finally done talking preps.
That's why he's got the special screen.
Yes. Change his colors.